The galaxy had never seen a silence like this. Every system within the Empire's reach held its breath as the sensors picked up something impossible. A ship appeared out of nowhere, sliding through the void with an elegance that felt unnatural, almost deliberate. It was massive, far larger than any human vessel they had records of, yet it moved with grace. No one could identify it at first, and that was the first strike of fear, the unknown. Admiral Corrin stared at the main display, his claws tapping nervously against the metal console. It just appeared, he whispered, more to himself than to anyone else. Around him, the bridge was filled with murmurs of shock. Officers who had faced the deadliest battles in the Outer Rim now looked at one another with pale, uncomprehending faces. The unknown had arrived, and it brought a fear that no weapon could answer. From orbit, the fleet tried to respond. Energy beams flared and scanners screamed, but the ship didn't slow, didn't dodge, didn't acknowledge their presence. It was as if it didn't see them, or didn't care. Its hull shimmered with an energy signature no one had catalogued. The Empire's top scientists, speaking through secure comms, could only gasp at the readings. They had never seen technology like this. It was ancient, yet advanced beyond imagination. Captain Yara, aboard the leading battleship, felt a chill run down her spine. She had fought wars in 3 sectors, commanded fleets, seen entire colonies fall, yet nothing could prepare her for this. "Admiral, it's heading straight for the Central Command Station," she reported. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook as she gripped the console. Corrin's tail flicked nervously. He had always believed in the Empire's supremacy, the power of their fleets, the strength of their weapons. But now, as the mysterious vessel glided closer, every strategy, every plan he had studied, seemed meaningless. His mind raced. Could it be a human ship? Impossible. Humans were primitive. They had been a minor power at best. Yet, this was not a primitive ship. Not by any measure. The Empire's communication networks were flooded with messages, alarms, and warnings. Each system tried to call for backup, but the human ship ignored all signals. It moved with purpose, slow but unstoppable, a predator stalking a prey that had no chance. The Empire's fleets tried to coordinate, form battle lines, but the moment they engaged, the human vessel reacted. And it was terrifying in its simplicity. Without warning, energy pulses erupted from the ship. Entire battleships were vaporized in an instant, leaving nothing but fragments drifting silently in space. No explosions, no screams, just an empty void where proud vessels had once floated. The Empire's commanders froze, unable to comprehend the efficiency, the sheer power, and the cold precision of the attack. Every calculation they had made about humans being weak, about their ships being slow and fragile, shattered in seconds. Below, on the homeworld, the citizens watched the alerts flash across the sky. Families gathered around communication hubs, eyes wide with disbelief. The leaders of the Empire broadcasted calm words, assuring everyone that the fleet would handle the threat. But even they whispered to their closest aides in private, no one had ever seen anything like this. The human ship moved closer to the heart of the Empire, its engines leaving trails of blue energy that danced like fire across the void. Each pulse, each movement seemed almost purposeful, as if the ship itself had a mind. Strategists argued over tactics, but none could find a solution. The human vessel anticipated every maneuver, every trap, every formation the Empire tried. It was as though it had fought these battles before, and now it was teaching a lesson the galaxy would never forget. Corrin's mind returned to an old legend, a story whispered in secret by Imperial historians. They spoke of humans as dangerous, yes, but extinct, or at least, scattered to nothingness. How could one of their warships exist? How could they be here, in the heart of the Empire, with technology beyond comprehension? The thought made him shiver. As the ship drew closer, the Empire's Central Command Station tried one last desperate measure, a massive energy net designed to immobilize large vessels. The net fired, spreading across kilometers of space, but the human ship passed through it as if it were nothing, leaving the Empire's best engineers screaming in disbelief. Panic began to spread. The Empire's fleets, once confident and disciplined, now moved with chaos. Orders were ignored, signals crossed, and fear overtook strategy. Then, in a moment that would be remembered in every history book, the human ship paused. Not a second too long, not a movement too fast, just enough for the entire empire to realize that it had made a choice. And then, with a single pulse of light, one of the empire's largest fleets was gone. Hundreds of ships vanished into the void, leaving only silence behind. For the first time in centuries, the empire experienced true fear. Not the fear of defeat, not the fear of resistance, but the fear of extinction. And as the human warship continued its slow, unstoppable advance, every leader, every soldier, every citizen knew one terrifying truth: the humans had returned. And they were not here to negotiate. The galaxy held its breath. The silence of space was broken by distant alarms, but for the Empire, it was already too late. The human warship moved like a shadow across the stars, unstoppable and indifferent to every attempt to stop it. The fleets that had been confident moments ago now scattered in panic, their formations collapsing under the pressure of an enemy they could not understand. Captain Yara gripped her console tightly. She had seen many battles, faced countless enemies, but nothing could prepare her for this. Each pulse of energy from the human ship disintegrated entire squadrons, leaving behind nothing but drifting metal and smoke that shimmered faintly in the void. "They're too fast, too strong," she muttered, almost to herself. Her voice trembled despite her attempts to stay calm. Meanwhile, Admiral Corrin struggled to keep control of the situation. "All units, fall back. Regroup at Alpha Sector." His voice was sharp, commanding, but even he knew these words were meaningless. Every attempt to fight back ended in failure. The human ship anticipated every move, every strategy, every defensive formation the Empire threw at it. It was as if it could read their minds. In the Empire's capital, the Council of Leaders gathered in a panic. Holographic screens displayed the devastation in real time. Flags of conquered worlds trembled in the digital projections as fleets disintegrated. No one dared speak first. The leaders had always believed that humans were a minor threat, their civilization primitive and weak. Yet here, in front of their eyes, was proof of a terrifying truth: humanity was far from weak. They were lethal. In a secret chamber deep beneath the capital, a historian whispered to herself, unable to stop her hands from shaking. "It's the old warship. The one that vanished centuries ago," she said softly, eyes wide in disbelief. Centuries ago, humans had built vessels of unmatched power, legends that had been written off as myths. And somehow, one had returned, alone, yet capable of destroying fleets larger than entire sectors. Back in space, the human ship slowed slightly, as if sizing up its next target. Sensors on Empire vessels registered impossible readings. Its weapons were not only powerful, they were precise. Entire starbases could vanish in a single strike. And yet, it did not attack everything at once. It seemed to choose its targets with care, creating fear deliberately. Every Empire commander felt it. This was not just war. It was a message. Captain Yara's ship suddenly shuddered as an energy pulse struck nearby. Her shields held, but the force of the impact pushed her back several meters. "Report," she shouted. Her crew scrambled, eyes wide as monitors displayed the destruction in detail. "Multiple fleets gone," a young officer replied, voice shaking. "The human ship, it just destroyed 3 squadrons at once." Corrin's claws tightened around his chair. He had never felt fear like this. Not from rebellion, not from foreign invaders, not from any battle he had fought. This was something different. It was the fear of the unknown, of a force that defied understanding, of a history that they had forgotten. Humanity, once thought weak and distant, had returned. And they brought a warship that could erase the Empire itself. In a small observation deck, an engineer stared at the data streams in disbelief. Every calculation, every prediction had failed. How can one ship be so advanced? Its energy output, its shields, it's impossible, he whispered. Around him, colleagues shook their heads. No one had an answer. Every ancient text, every old record, Every piece of intelligence about humans suddenly seemed irrelevant. They had underestimated the enemy. Catastrophically. The human vessel moved closer to the Empire's core systems. Space battles raged in the distance, but their outcome was already decided. Each strike of the human ship left trails of silence and empty void. Nothing could survive it. Planets that had been considered safe zones watched the destruction unfold, their citizens frozen in fear. Rumors spread quickly. The humans have returned. The legends were true. Captain Yara watched helplessly as more ships were obliterated. She clenched her fists, determination sparking in her eyes. "We can't let it reach the Central Command," she said firmly. Her voice was steady now, despite the fear. She knew the fleet was outmatched, but she refused to give up. The humans were powerful, yes, but she needed a plan, any plan, to survive. Corrin, on the other hand, realized that the Empire's survival depended on understanding the ship before it was too late. He barked orders frantically, sending scouting vessels to track its movements, calling every scientist, engineer, and tactician available. But the human warship was always one step ahead, moving with eerie precision and purpose. It was not just a ship, it was a weapon, a hunter. As the human vessel glided through space, one thing became terrifyingly clear. It was not seeking negotiation, it was not here to communicate. Its every action was designed to instill fear, to demonstrate power, and to remind the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. Entire fleets of the Empire had been erased in minutes, leaving nothing but chaos, disbelief, and horror. And yet, despite the devastation, the human ship did not destroy indiscriminately. It moved with a strange rhythm, a pattern that no one could decipher. Strategists argued, debated, and predicted, but every move they suggested failed. The ship seemed almost alive, as if it had a mind of its own, a mind that had been silent for centuries, now awake and fully aware of the Empire's arrogance. Corrin leaned back in his chair, the weight of centuries of pride and power collapsing on him. Humanity had returned. The legends were real. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The Empire's fleets were in chaos. Ships drifted aimlessly, energy shields flickering, weapons offline from the human ship's silent assault. Entire sectors had reported the same terrifying pattern: fleets disappearing without a sound, space stations reduced to glowing fragments, and not a single human signal to explain it. The galaxy had never known fear like this. Captain Yara's ship shuddered as another nearby battleship was destroyed. She watched helplessly as the metal debris drifted past them, shining under distant starlight. Her crew's faces were pale, eyes wide with disbelief. "We need a plan," she said, her voice cutting through the panic. "We can't keep running forever." Corrin, still on the Empire's command bridge, stared at the main display in horror. He could barely process the destruction before him. How can one ship do this?" he muttered, almost choking on his own disbelief. Every calculation, every strategy, every known weapon of the Empire had failed. The human warship had become more than a vessel, it was a living nightmare, a force that the Empire could not stop. Sensors picked up a strange anomaly as the human ship moved closer to the Empire's industrial sectors. Energy pulses rippled through space, bending light in ways that made it impossible for scanners to get an accurate reading. The Empire's scientists watched in fear as their best instruments failed. It's rewriting the rules," one whispered. "It's not just powerful, it's adaptive. It learns faster than we can think." On board Captain Yara's ship, the tension was unbearable. Crew members whispered prayers, while engineers frantically tried to calculate the next move. "Captain, shields at 20%, shouted one officer. "If it hits us again," his voice trailed off, and the unspoken truth hung in the air, none of them would survive another direct strike. Then, without warning, the human ship changed its course. It wasn't just moving, it was hunting. It had identified key targets and was moving with deadly precision. Entire convoys of the Empire's supply ships vanished as the warship's energy beams cut through them like knives. The destruction was absolute, and with every strike, the human ship seemed more alive, more intelligent, more terrifying. In the Empire's capital, Alarms blared as emergency meetings were called. Leaders argued, shouted, and blamed one another. Some suggested retreating to outer systems. Others demanded an all-out counterattack. But Corrin knew it was too late for arguments. Humanity's warship had the upper hand, and the Empire was running out of time. Captain Yara gritted her teeth. "We can't let it reach the command hub," she said firmly. "If it destroys Central Command, the Empire will collapse instantly." Her crew nodded, determination sparking amidst the fear. They had no idea how they could fight it, but they would try. They had to try. Corrin watched in disbelief as the human ship approached one of the largest industrial stations. Energy pulses surrounded the station, cracking its hull, burning metal, and leaving a glowing wreck in its wake. Entire fleets that had tried to intervene were vaporized before they could fire a shot. Panic spread like wildfire. The Empire's confidence was gone, only fear remained. In a hidden archive, the historian who had whispered about the old warship earlier began poring over ancient texts. Her hands shook as she read passages describing humanity's legendary vessels. They were said to possess technology that could destroy fleets without warning, that could move faster than thought, and that could survive any known weapon. Legends called them ghosts of the past, meant to be myths. And now, one had returned. Captain Yara made a bold decision. "We can't run. We have to lure it into the asteroid field near Sector 7, she said. Her voice was calm but determined. "It's risky, but it's our only chance. If we can't outgun it, maybe we can outsmart it." Her officers nodded, preparing the fleet for a desperate maneuver. Every ship, every weapon, every pilot knew the odds were against them. Yet, for the first time, they had a plan that could give them a chance. The human ship seemed almost aware of their strategy. Its sensors flared, scanning the approaching fleet. It did not hesitate, did not retreat, and did not slow. It moved forward, deliberate and unyielding, like a predator closing in on prey. Every pulse of its energy field seemed to say, "You cannot stop me." As the fleets entered the asteroid field, tension reached its peak. The Empire's ships dodged massive rocks and debris, trying to position themselves for a trap. Captain Yara's hands flew over the controls, coordinating the fleet as best as she could. "Hold formation. Wait for my signal," she shouted. Her heart pounded in her chest. This was a gamble, the kind that could cost them everything. The human ship followed, moving effortlessly among the massive asteroids, its shields absorbing impacts that would have destroyed any other vessel. Fleet after fleet tried to ambush it, but the warship anticipated every move. Energy pulses erupted, sending ships spinning into oblivion. The field, meant to be a trap, became a tomb for the Empire's bravest vessels. Corrin's voice trembled as he watched the disaster unfold. He had underestimated humanity. He had believed them weak, predictable, and confined to legend. Now, he realized the terrifying truth. Humans were not just a threat, they were a force beyond comprehension, and the galaxy was witnessing the first step of their return. Even as destruction raged, one thing was clear. The human ship was not finished. It had a purpose, a goal, a reason for its sudden appearance. And the Empire, with all its power and pride, was completely unprepared for what was coming next. The galaxy held its breath once more, waiting for the inevitable strike. The Empire's fleets were broken, scattered, and terrified. The human warship moved through space like a shadow, unstoppable and silent, leaving nothing but destruction in its wake. Entire squadrons vanished before they could even fire a shot. Every command from the Empire's leaders was met with failure, and every plan crumbled before the ship's relentless advance. Captain Yara's ship shook as another energy pulse hit nearby. Sparks flew across the bridge, alarms screamed, and crew members scrambled to keep systems online. "Brace for impact," she shouted, gripping the console. Her heart pounded, but her mind was sharp. She had seen the ship's patterns, its movements, and she knew it was not moving randomly. This ship had purpose. It hunted, it calculated, it destroyed with precision. Admiral Corrin's tail lashed nervously as he watched the chaos unfold on the main display. "It's impossible," he muttered. Nothing should survive this. Nothing should be able to destroy entire fleets at once. Around him, officers whispered and pointed at the screens, their eyes wide with disbelief. Every sensor reading, every weapon report, every strategic plan, none could match the reality of what they faced. Deep within the Empire's capital, the historian's hands trembled as she read from ancient texts. "It's one of them," she whispered. Centuries ago, humanity had built vessels of unmatched power. These ships were legends, myths written in secret histories, said to be lost forever. And now, one had returned, not as a relic, but alive, active, and devastating. The thought sent chills through her spine. The human ship advanced toward the Empire's core production sectors. Its shields glimmered in the void, reflecting starlight in impossible patterns. Energy pulses rippled outward, disintegrating ships that dared to approach. Supply convoys vanished as if they had never existed. Entire orbital factories were reduced to molten fragments, their metal hulls twisting in silent agony. Captain Yara knew she had to act. She barked orders, moving her fleet into a narrow corridor between two asteroid belts. "This is our only chance," she shouted. "We have to force it into a trap. If we can't outgun it, we can outmaneuver it." Her officers nodded, adrenaline pumping through their veins. Every pilot knew the risk. This was not just a battle, it was a desperate gamble for survival. The human warship followed. It navigated the asteroid field with impossible precision, weaving between massive rocks, deflecting minor collisions with ease. Its movements were deliberate, measured, almost intelligent. Every pulse of energy it released was calculated, targeting ships in a pattern that spread fear as much as destruction. The Empire's fleet, despite all their courage, felt like ants trying to block a hurricane. "Shields holding at 50%, yelled one of Yara's officers. "We can't take much more." Sparks flew across the bridge, consoles cracked under pressure, and yet Yara's eyes burned with determination. "Hold formation. Don't break. Wait for my signal," she commanded. Her voice was steady, but inside, she felt the weight of thousands of lives depending on her. Corin, in despair, barked orders to every remaining fleet in the surrounding sectors. "Deploy the heavy cannons. Fire everything. Don't let it reach the capital." But even he knew it was futile. The human ship moved faster than thought, struck harder than prediction, and defied every law of known technology. The Empire's pride, built over centuries, crumbled in moments. Suddenly, the human ship unleashed a wave of energy unlike anything seen before. It pulsed outward in all directions, tearing through space like a living storm. Entire squadrons disintegrated in seconds, leaving only glowing fragments floating silently. Even the asteroid field that was meant to protect Yara's fleet became a deadly trap, as energy waves tore rocks apart, sending debris smashing into Empire ships. Panic and chaos erupted. Captain Yara's voice cut through the comms, calm but commanding. "Focus on the gaps. Use the debris as cover. Don't panic." Her fleet tried to maneuver, but every step was anticipated. The human ship seemed almost aware of their intentions, responding before they could act. It was not just powerful, it was thinking, calculating, predicting. The very concept of a battle had changed. Deep within the command center, Corin realized the terrifying truth. This was not just an attack. This was a warning. Humanity had returned not for negotiation, not for alliance, but to demonstrate a power the galaxy had long forgotten. Entire fleets could vanish in minutes, and no one could stop it. The human warship had rewritten the rules of war in a single appearance. Even as despair spread, Captain Yara noticed something strange. The human ship, after destroying countless vessels, slowed slightly near a massive asteroid cluster. It was deliberate, almost cautious. "Why is it hesitating?" she murmured. Her eyes narrowed, calculating. Perhaps, for the first time, they had found a pattern. Perhaps there was a weakness, or at least an opportunity. Corin, however, had no time to ponder. Every second that passed, more of his fleet was gone. The Empire was facing annihilation. His claws dug into the console as he realized that the humans were not here for war alone. They were here to remind the galaxy of a power that could never be contained. Fear gripped him. Pride, strategy, and centuries of conquest meant nothing against this unstoppable force. The human ship glided through the void, unstoppable, mysterious, and almost alive. Its purpose remained hidden, its motives unknown, but one thing was certain: the galaxy had entered a new era. Humanity had returned, and the Empire, and anyone who thought they were safe, would never be the same again. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting for the next strike. The Empire's heart was breaking. Entire sectors had fallen, fleets reduced to drifting wreckage, and their pride shattered beyond repair. Nothing in their history, no strategy, no weapon, had prepared them for this. The human warship moved like a ghost through space, silent, unstoppable, and deadly. Every pulse of its energy left devastation behind, and every movement seemed planned with terrifying precision. Captain Yara's ship shivered as the warship unleashed a massive energy beam that tore through a nearby fleet. Metal twisted, engines exploded, and hundreds of lives vanished in an instant. Her crew gasped, faces pale with fear, but she held herself steady. "Keep moving. Don't let it predict your path," she shouted. Her voice was calm, sharp, and commanding, even as panic threatened to consume her. Admiral Corrin's claws dug into the console as he watched more fleets disintegrate. It's unstoppable," he muttered, his voice trembling. Around him, officers scrambled, issuing frantic orders that led nowhere. Every strike, every countermeasure, every attempt at resistance failed. The human ship anticipated their every move, destroyed their every plan, and left them grasping at shadows. Deep within the Empire's capital, leaders convened in panic. Emergency lights flashed as they argued over desperate measures. Some demanded an immediate evacuation. Others insisted on using every remaining weapon in a final, desperate strike. But even their heaviest cannons, their fastest fighters, and their strongest defenses were no match for the human ship. It moved through their forces like a force of nature, unstoppable and indifferent. Captain Yara spotted something unusual on her sensors. The human ship seemed to pause near the edge of a massive asteroid field. Its shields glimmered, energy pulses rippling faintly, almost cautiously. "Why is it stopping?" she asked, narrowing her eyes. For the first time, she sensed a pattern, a rhythm, a choice. Perhaps it wasn't mindless destruction, it was hunting with purpose. Perhaps they could use that to their advantage. Corrin, however, was drowning in despair. Every fleet, every ship, every hope of the Empire seemed to vanish before his eyes. He had never imagined humanity could return with such overwhelming force, and now he faced the terrifying reality. Centuries of pride and power meant nothing against this single warship. Panic rose within him, choking every thought. The human ship then unleashed a wave of energy unlike any before. It spread across kilometers of space, striking fleets that had thought they were safe. Explosions flared in the void, ships crumbling like glass, metal melting under the raw power. Yara's fleet dodged desperately, using the asteroid field for cover, but even that offered limited protection. Sparks and debris flew, tearing through hulls and engines alike. In the chaos, the shocking twist revealed itself. Sensors aboard Yara's ship picked up a hidden energy signature. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there. A smaller ship, cloaked and moving in perfect synchrony with the human warship. "There's another vessel," she said, disbelief in her voice. "It's following it, maybe controlling it, or coordinating with it." The crew gasped, realizing the human warship was not alone. Its true power was greater than they had imagined. Corrin's jaw tightened as reports poured in. Entire fleets had vanished, stations destroyed, and now this revelation struck terror into every officer. Humanity had not returned with a single ship, they had returned with technology beyond comprehension, fleets hidden, perhaps watching, perhaps waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The Empire's leaders paled, realizing that what they faced was only the beginning. Captain Yara took a deep breath. Her hands flew over the controls, trying to calculate a way to survive. "If we can't defeat it, we have to escape it," she said firmly. "We can't fight alone, not like this. We need to buy time, delay it, confuse it." Her crew nodded, ready to follow her lead, knowing that one wrong move could cost them everything. The human warship advanced once again, gliding through space like a predator, energy pulses sweeping across the battlefield, targeting ships with deadly accuracy. Even the asteroid field offered no safety. Every maneuver, every strategy of the Empire was anticipated. Ships were torn apart, their remains floating silently in the void, victims of a power that no one could challenge. Corrin realized the terrifying truth: the humans were not here for negotiation, not here for diplomacy. They were here to demonstrate force, to remind the galaxy of a civilization long thought weak, and to ensure no one dared challenge them again. Entire sectors would fall if this warship continued, and the Empire's arrogance would be its downfall. Yet, amidst the despair, Captain Yara noticed a faint possibility. The hidden energy signature, the smaller ship, might be the key. If they could track it, if they could understand its connection to the warship, perhaps they could find a weakness. It was a tiny chance, a slim hope in a sea of destruction, but it was enough to spark determination in her crew. The human warship, massive and unstoppable, moved forward with silent purpose. It was a force beyond comprehension, reshaping the rules of war with every pulse of energy. And the galaxy, for the first time in centuries, understood the truth: humanity had returned. Not as legends, not as myths, but as a power that would rewrite the fate of every empire, every world, and every star. The void of space trembled with the weight of what was coming next. The human warship advanced relentlessly. The void of space seemed smaller now, constricted by the sheer presence of its massive hull. Energy pulses radiated outward, disintegrating fleets, crushing stations, and leaving silence in their place. The Empire's pride, once unshakable, now lay in ruins. Every command was met with failure, every strategy anticipated, every hope shattered. Captain Yara gritted her teeth as her ship shook violently under a nearby energy strike. Sparks flew, consoles flashed red, and crew members clung desperately to their stations. "We have to keep moving," she shouted. Her eyes scanned the battlefield. "Find a pattern. There has to be a way to outmaneuver it." Her voice was calm, but determination blazed in her gaze. She refused to let fear take hold. Admiral Corrin watched from the command bridge as more fleets vanished in seconds. "It's impossible," he whispered, almost in disbelief. "No weapon, no fleet, nothing should survive this." Officers around him were pale, whispers of panic echoing through the hall. Even the Empire's most advanced ships had no chance. The human warship was not just powerful, it was a predator, calculating, precise, and seemingly alive. In a hidden observation chamber, the historian continued scanning ancient texts. She traced diagrams of human warships that had been lost centuries ago. Their designs were legendary: energy weapons that could vaporize entire fleets, shields that could withstand cataclysmic explosions, and a strange adaptability that made them almost impossible to defeat. And now, centuries later, one of these legendary vessels had returned, not alone, but with support, coordination, and purpose. Captain Yara noticed something strange on her sensors. The smaller hidden ship, previously cloaked, began emitting a faint energy trail. "It's moving in sync with the main warship," she said, leaning closer to the console. "It's controlling something, or feeding it information. If we can track it, maybe we can find a weakness." Her crew exchanged anxious glances. Every second wasted could mean destruction, but this tiny signature was the first lead they had seen. Corrin's heart sank as he received reports. Entire fleets were gone, sectors destroyed, and now intelligence suggested the humans had more hidden vessels. "They are not just one ship," he said in disbelief. "They have waited, they have planned, they have returned stronger than any history record suggests." His claws trembled on the console. Every Empire officer felt it. Centuries of arrogance, pride, and supremacy were crumbling in moments. Then, amidst the chaos, a shocking event occurred. From the far edge of the battle zone, a small fleet of human scout ships appeared. Faster, smaller, almost invisible. They moved strategically, targeting weak points in the Empire's formation. Entire squadrons were disabled or rerouted without the larger warship firing a single shot. It became clear that the human warship was not acting alone, it was the central command, and the scouts were extensions of its intelligence. Captain Yara realized this was the opportunity they needed. "We can't beat it head-on," she said. "But if we can isolate one of the scout ships, we can create a distraction, slow the main warship, and maybe, just maybe," her voice trailed off, leaving the crew to grasp the daring plan. Every move was dangerous, almost suicidal, but the alternative was annihilation. Corrin, desperate for a solution, ordered a mass deployment of the Empire's heaviest weaponry. Energy beams, missile barrages, and experimental weapons were fired in an attempt to overwhelm the human warship. But each attack was anticipated. Shields shimmered and redirected energy harmlessly into space, while the warship advanced, untouchable and unstoppable. Panic spread faster than any warning system. The smaller ships worked flawlessly with the main warship. They disrupted communications, hacked targeting systems, and coordinated attacks with deadly precision. Each strike seemed almost choreographed, a deadly dance of power that left the Empire reeling. Yara watched with awe and fear. The humans were not just soldiers, they were a civilization of strategists, engineers, and hunters operating with a level of precision that defied understanding. Suddenly, one of Yara's pilots spotted a faint fluctuation in the energy field of the smaller scout ship. "Captain, there's a pattern," he shouted. "It flickers every few seconds, like it's vulnerable for a brief moment." Yara's heart raced. This could be their chance, a tiny window in a wall of death that might allow them to strike back, or at least survive longer. Corrin's face paled as he realized that the Empire's survival hinged on understanding the humans' technology in real time. Every fleet lost, every sector destroyed, only highlighted one terrifying fact: they were facing a force beyond comprehension. The humans had returned not as myths, not as legends, but as a civilization capable of annihilating the galaxy's greatest empire without hesitation. Captain Yara tightened her grip on the controls. "We move now," she said firmly. Her crew nodded, preparing for the most dangerous maneuver of their lives. If they failed, the human warship would crush them like all the others. If they succeeded, they might buy time, gather intelligence, and discover the true purpose of this unstoppable force. The human warship, massive and silent, glided closer. Its smaller scouts moved like extensions of its will, coordinating, disrupting, hunting. The galaxy trembled under its presence. One thing was clear: humanity had returned, and nothing, no empire, no fleet, no weapon, could stand in its path without understanding the mind behind the warship. And in that tense moment, as the Empire's fleet prepared for its desperate maneuver, space itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the clash that would decide the fate of worlds. The galaxy was on fire. Entire fleets had vanished, star systems were in chaos, and the Empire's pride lay shattered in drifting fragments of metal and fire. The human warship advanced relentlessly, massive, silent, and unstoppable. Its smaller scout ships darted around like deadly shadows, coordinating strikes with deadly precision. Nothing could stop it. Nothing. Captain Yara's ship shuddered under another energy pulse. Sparks flew, alarms screamed, and the bridge rocked violently. She gritted her teeth, determination burning in her eyes. "Hold formation. Follow my lead. We will survive this." Her crew clung to every order, hearts pounding, knowing that one mistake could mean death. Admiral Corrin's claws dug into his console. "It's unstoppable," he muttered. "Nothing in history, no weapon, no fleet, nothing could survive this." Panic spread among the officers. Every report, every reading, every sensor indicated the same terrifying truth. The human warship was not just a ship, it was a force of nature, a predator, a judgment the Empire was unprepared to face. In the Empire's capital, leaders shouted, ordered evacuations, and called for desperate counterattacks. Yet every weapon, every fleet, every strategy failed. The human warship anticipated every move, destroyed every fleet, and left silence where chaos had reigned. The galaxy realized, for the first time in centuries, that humans were not weak, not primitive, and not gone. They had returned, and with a vengeance beyond imagination. Captain Yara noticed the smaller scout ships moving in a coordinated pattern around the warship. "They're controlling it," she said softly, eyes narrowing. "It's not acting alone. It's connected, intelligent, calculating." Her crew's breaths caught in their throats. If they could understand this connection, perhaps they could find a weakness. Perhaps, just perhaps, they could survive. Corin's mind raced. He had never felt fear like this. The humans, thought to be a minor threat centuries ago, were now an unstoppable force. Their warship was a living nightmare, and the scouts amplified its power. Entire fleets had been destroyed, entire sectors lay in ruin, and now the Empire faced a force that had waited centuries to return, and was stronger than anyone could imagine. Suddenly, Captain Yara spotted the moment she had been waiting for. One of the scout ships flickered, its energy field pulsed weakly for just a fraction of a second. "Now!" she shouted. Her crew reacted instantly. Missiles and energy beams targeted the scout ship, attempting to disrupt the connection to the main warship. Sparks erupted across space, and for a brief instant, a flicker of hope appeared. The human warship slowed slightly, almost imperceptibly. Sensors detected a minor fluctuation in its energy patterns. Captain Yara's heart raced. Could this be the opening they had been searching for? Could they, just maybe, turn the tide against this unstoppable force? Admiral Corin barked orders to all remaining fleets. Focus fire. Target the scouts. Disrupt their coordination. Chaos reigned as ships maneuvered desperately, trying to seize the tiny chance that had appeared. Yet even this small opportunity was terrifyingly limited. The human warship reacted instantly, energy beams striking with deadly accuracy, disintegrating fleets in seconds. Despite the destruction around them, Captain Yara pressed on. Her fleet navigated the asteroid field with precision, dodging debris, energy blasts, and the warship's relentless attacks. Every movement was calculated, every decision critical. One misstep would mean annihilation. One success might buy time, might allow them to survive, might allow them to uncover the true purpose of the human warship. In the Empire's capital, panic reached its peak. Reports flooded in of fleets being destroyed, sectors falling, and entire worlds trembling under the shadow of humanity's return. Corin's claws shook as he realized the truth. The humans had returned not for negotiation, not for peace, and not as myths. They were here to demonstrate power, and their weapon had rewritten the rules of war. The human warship unleashed another pulse of energy. It struck with surgical precision, disintegrating multiple fleets at once. Sparks of metal floated in the void, the silence of destruction ringing louder than any alarm. Its smaller scouts darted, controlled, coordinating, unyielding. The Empire's remaining forces had no chance. All hope seemed lost. Yet, in the chaos, Captain Yara noticed something extraordinary. The energy pulse from the main warship seemed to hesitate, almost subtly, whenever the scout ship's connection faltered. She shouted, "Keep firing. Keep disrupting. We may not stop it, but we can slow it." Her crew moved with desperation and skill, exploiting the tiniest advantage, refusing to surrender. Corin's face was pale as reports continued to stream in. Entire fleets, the pride of the Empire, destroyed within minutes. Even the largest weapons had failed. Humanity had returned, and with one warship, one vessel, they had shown the galaxy that the legends were real. The Empire's arrogance had been crushed in moments, and now, every system, every leader, every citizen trembled in fear of what was to come. The human warship moved forward, unstoppable, silent, and deadly. The smaller scouts continued their synchronized assault, controlling and feeding the main vessel with precision. The galaxy could only watch, helpless, as history itself seemed to bend beneath the return of humanity. Captain Yara's voice cut through the comms one last time. "Hold your ground. Observe. Learn. Survive. The humans have returned, and the galaxy will never be the same." As the warship glided forward, energy pulses lighting the void like storms of fire, one fact was undeniable. Humanity had returned, not as legends, not as myths, but as an unstoppable force. The Empire, with all its power, all its pride, all its history, was now powerless before them. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath as the human warship disappeared into the distance, leaving the galaxy in awe, fear, and trembling anticipation. And somewhere, deep in the shadows of space, the smaller scouts prepared for the next move. The return of humanity had begun. And nothing would ever be the same again.